I think overall, Brian, we've not been good enough. We've came up short. We've had numerous opportunities in games to claw ourselves back. It felt like from February, March, it was last chance saloon getting into games where you had to win to try and close the gap. We went into the January break too far adrift, and ultimately every opportunity that came we've not been able to take, and that's a byproduct of everything that's happened over the course of the season, and probably out after the first maybe 5-6 games of the league, we went on that run where we couldn't win a game for love nor money, and we found ourselves in this position. And you know, I think getting into the last game of the season, we wanted to try and in the split, at least after confirmation of relegation, we wanted to try and restore a wee bit of pride, and both as individuals but collectively as well as a club, and you know, to kind of end up with the result that we ended up with on Wednesday night. You know, I feel that in itself almost just sums up where we've been this year. You know, and it's getting to a point it's hard to pick the bones out of what's happening, but there's one game to go. Like I kind of said and touched on, that as individuals and as a group, we owe it to ourselves and to the club to put on a performance and try our best to get a result. Perhaps from October onwards, there's been a feeling of that we're struggling a little bit here, but I feel there was optimism within the group at the start of the season. You know, we did relatively well in the League Cup section at the start of the season. We beat Hibs at the start of the season, we beat Motherwell. You know, there were some decent performances and results, but I think very quickly you could feel the confidence draining out of the boys with each passing week that we didn't manage to pick up a win. And I think the point that it felt like we were in a bit of trouble probably was, I think when we played Motherwell just before the January break, they hadn't won a game in a long time as well, and it was going to be a case of who would manage to break that run of form, and on the day it was Motherwell, and we came up well short that day as well. So I think there has been a feeling of that we're struggling, probably question marks over whether we were good enough to really compete and get ourselves out of the trouble that we were in. But we're also a group, and we're probably a club that have been used to almost scrapping in that environment. So for all there was question marks, but I feel like there's enough experience and know-how in the changing room that we've kind of backed ourselves that, listen, we just need one result will turn this, and we can kind of claw back. But ultimately that's not materialised. Yeah, it'll be a hugely competitive league next year. I think the Championship always is. But like you said, I think probably from the outside looking in, you don't have a club the size of Dundee United that are going to be clear favourites, like you said. So I think there'll be a number of teams looking at next season thinking what a brilliant opportunity to really have a go and try and win the league and get ourselves back into the Premier League, and we're going to be part of that. So I think the rebuild is important. We all understand the consequences of what relegation means for the club as a group of players, staff, everybody else. But the gaffer has been quite proactive in that we've already got a few players coming in for next year. He obviously recognises that there is going to be a big turnover of players, and ultimately a reset of the club, because as a group, everybody we've failed this year, and we've not failed by a couple of points as it stands. You know, we've failed by a long distance. So moving into what's going to be a really challenging season and a competitive league, we need to be prepared for that and have a group that's ready to compete. I think everybody probably needs a bit of a break. You know, the manager's tried to do that at times throughout the season, where there's been opportunity to say, lads, go and take a few days away from the club and try and switch off mentally. You know, I think at times that the emphasis can be on be in every day, working on what you need to work on. But I think the gaffer recognised at times probably this has been a tough old season, and boys needed a little bit of a kind of fresh environment effectively for a couple of days, as opposed to then coming back in every day and it being a bit of a slog. But I think for everybody, given the kind of mental strain as well as physical that everybody's been under all season, playing with this pressure, lack of results, lack of confidence, lack of belief probably in how we're going to get those results, that the break's coming, and it's well needed for everybody to almost reset themselves, go away and try and get a bit of sun if that's it, spend a bit of time with your family, whatever it may be. But it's also an uncertain time for a lot of people because a lot of people's futures are up in the air, so it's finding that balance of, right, everybody knows what they're going to be doing next year, and we can kind of rest up, try and recharge a little bit and then come back ready for the challenge ahead. But unfortunately that's the implications of relegation, is that you don't have that necessarily, or you don't have that security as such, where everybody knows what's going to be happening. You can go away and switch off, come back ready to go. So I think it's finding that balance of understanding that it's going to be a difficult summer, but one you need to recharge quickly and get ready to go again.